Hello everybody, welcome back to Speaking Spurs with me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And today we're going to talk about that 2-1 victory over Leeds United back in the Premier League after the international break. So welcome back to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to already, please do so. Don't forget to support this video with a like and leave your comments below so we can keep the conversation going. So, interesting day. We made it very hard work. Second half strikes from Sergio, Reguilon and Pierre, Emile, Højbjerg give us the victory over Leeds after that terrible first half display, in my opinion, where Daniel James, former Manchester United player, gets the goal for them to give them that 1-0 lead before half-time. Second half response, however, Conte must have tore into him at half-time to ask for more. The fans certainly were asking for more. They were not happy. But yeah, Mora's pass from near the byline out to Højbjerg, where he swept away very coolly into the corner, and then Reguilon with his quick reactions after Dier's deflected free kick that went onto the post, first to react and then slots that one home coolly as well, with a great celebration with loads of passion from him, sliding on his knees into the corner where the fans were. And that's his first Premier League goal for us as well, which is probably why it meant so much more to him. The victory takes us up to 7th, so that's a 3-place jump in the Premier League. Leeds sit down in 17th after that game, and in my eyes it's a bit of a false position for Leeds, and I'll explain why a bit later in the video. But you know, from us, no real standouts displays. Reguilon was given man of the match and I felt like he was good in certain aspects, but still not his best display in a Spurs shirt. Nobody particularly really deserved loads and loads of credit. I will say Reguilon was very good in terms of distance covered. He was third for crosses in the game. He also managed to beat his man several times around the outside. Obviously he got his goal, which is great. Yeah, so all round a decent game from him, but certainly not his best showing, and a first half that was left wanting much more from us as fans in terms of all players in Spurs shirts today. So if we just have a look at the team that started the game, so Lloris obviously in goal, then the defensive three of Dier and Davies retaining their positions, and Tanganga next to them. Wasn't so sure about that one to start with, and as the game went on, it only backed up further why I wasn't so sure. Then Reguilon and Royale keeping their positions out wide, with Winks and Højbjerg making up the two in the middle, sitting deeper, with Mora, Son and Kane making the front three, or the 2 and a 1, depending on where we were in the game at the time. Subs that came on in the game, Sessegnon finally makes his long-awaited return. I mean, the guy's been plagued with injuries ever since he's been at Spurs, even out on loan last season, still managed to get himself injured. And Dele Alli came on right towards the end, not enough time to really do much. Conte on the sideline, very, very vocal in the second half, especially. Active as he usually is, jumping up and down, pointing here and there, showing his passion. So the Romero injury during the international break was the reason we see Tanganga sitting in the back line. Now, I would have expected before the game we would have seen Davinson Sanchez, because he's the guy that's either been brought on or been in place of any of the injured or any player that he wants to rest at centre-back. He's been the go-to man. So I was surprised to see Tanganga there, but I'm wondering if it's to do with the fact that he's been back for the 2 weeks on international duty. He's been at home with Conte, been able to work on his ideas, alongside Eric Dyer. He would have been as well, because Dyer obviously not selected in the England squad, so them two would have been able to work together, whereas the others were away. Joe Rodon has been very impressive for Wales, and obviously playing with Davies, so you would expect they have some sort of relationship, so maybe you can see that he should have had a chance. There are rumours linking with him with a loan move away in January, which I spoke about previously, and I kind of agree at this stage. If he's not going to be played on a consistent basis or even get some game time, a loan is the best option for him if we can find a Premier League outfit for him to go to. However, I just genuinely thought it'd be Sanchez. It can only be because of the work they've done in the last 2 weeks where he's been back at home with Conte still, that Tanganga got the nod. And I do feel like as the game wore on, it was obvious to me that Sanchez would have been the better choice. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Tanganga was bad in any sense. I just think you can see that he hasn't had much game time. And then when Sanchez did come on to replace him, oh yeah, I didn't say that in the subs. Yeah, Sanchez obviously come on as well. I actually think when Sanchez come on, he just showed a bit more quality, put his head in the way of things a lot more, was just more willing in certain aspects. However, I will say in this centre-back three, I've actually found that Davies is further forward than he's ever been in his Spurs career. There was times in the second half where he was pretty much breathing down the goalkeeper's throat. There were times when we also saw when Sanchez was on and before that Tanganga, they were quite high up the pitch. I'd say Dyer is the only one that really held position, and I think that's because he's the man in charge of running the back line. He stayed there very much the whole time. The one time he did decide to break forward a little bit on a run, he got wiped out and fouled. But I have found, because there's three centre-backs, there's a freedom for one of them to go forward whilst the others stay back, and then one of the full-backs just tucks in slightly. So that's been interesting. Lloris, I felt he had to make a few good saves in the game. Not loads. Couldn't have done much for the goal whatsoever. It was point-blank range in front of him from Daniel James. I felt like Lloris was fairly good. Distribution was okay. I'm not going to put this down to his fault. One of the things that's annoying me at the moment is this playing the ball out from goal kicks right to a centre-back just in front of him. There's a time to do it and there's a time not to do it. And I feel like in this game, because Leeds are so high intensity and they press a lot, it's not the best team to do it against every single goal kick. There were so many times when we played it and there was a man straight on us, which meant we then had to play a long ball anyway. So why not just cut out the middle man and just take the long ball straight from the goal kick? Dyer, I thought, was fairly decent again, didn't do too much wrong. Was winning a lot of his aerial battles as we're used to. Tanganga, as I said, was a bit hit and miss at times, but for the most time did his job. Davies again, fairly decent, doing an okay job. Do we need another centre-back in there of better quality? Yes, I think so. However, for what Conte's trying to do with the players he's got, I think mostly he's got the right men in there. Reguilon obviously had a good game, got his goal. Emerson Royale, he was quite hit and miss in the game. I felt like there was his quality of his final ball at time was terrible. But we're used to this with right wing backs / right wingers for Spurs. The final ball's not been good since Tripp's left the club, really. We've struggled to kind of fill that void. I felt like at times he was quite weak, especially for the goal that they scored. So he gets nutmegged, which one is bad enough, close your legs, and then decides to try and make the challenge, but he's so weak in the challenge, and just allows the player to shrug him off, which I thought was a bit shocking. But, you know, on his journey at Spurs so far, I think he's done okay. He is improving in certain areas. I know his English is definitely holding him back quite a bit because the communication on the pitch isn't where he wants it to be. And he's had interviews stressing this himself. He did one with young Philly and they were talking and he was basically saying that, especially when Nuno was there, he wasn't allowed a translator there. He could only have little bits of conversation from Lucas Moura because they were trying to force him to pick up English as he goes. But when you're playing at the elite level, the last thing you want is someone telling you an instruction and you have no idea what they're talking about. And if Lucas Moura's not on the pitch, he's got no one to communicate with. So I can understand where certain mistakes are coming from. And I think, and I'm hoping that under Conte, this is going to be corrected and they will give him a bit more in terms of translation. Winksy struggled to start with, grew into the game in the second half, but not had an awful lot of football. So you can kind of forgive little bits of that. Højbjerg did the job that Højbjerg does a lot of the time. You know, he mops things up. He tries to get involved creatively. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. He got a goal today, so all good. Moura, I love him and hate him at the same time. He's such a Marmite player. He goes on these lovely, wonderful runs. Lots of missed hit passes along the way. However, he did manage to look up to set up Pierre and Højbjerg for his goal. And I actually thought that was a very intelligent pass. It was just a quick look up, saw him where he was near the edge of the box and just played that one through. And as the game went on in the second half, I actually felt like Moura really burst into life. That was when he was at his best. Sonny, in and out of the game. Kane, slightly better. Obviously, he's coming off the back of 7 goals for England in 2 games. So I felt like he stepped his game up a bit. Squandered some chances. There was a couple of good saves from the Leeds goalkeeper. So all in all, an improvement. But where I want him to be and where we want him to be, absolutely not. There's still a long way to go with him. Subs that came on, obviously I spoke about Sanchez. I thought he did quite well when he was on. Sessegnon, just back from injury. It was important for him to get on the pitch and feel good. I felt like he actually created decent space, managed to get himself in, didn't put the best cross into the box to try and set up Kane. However, you're going to forgive him. He's not played any football for a long time now, and we're waiting for this guy to really explode onto the scene. Conte's the manager to get him to do it definitely. It will be really interesting as time goes on to watch him and Reguilon battle one another for that spot. I feel like that's going to be our strongest position because it's going to create great competition and both these two are going to push each other to the limit. A bit like back in the day when we had Trips and Walker up against each other, we saw the best out of them too. So we could have a situation like that on the left-hand side, which would be great. Because for the most of the time, we kind of just had Danny Rose taking that position and Davies was sort of the backup guy when Rose was out of form or injured. So that one, look out for that. That's going to be good. And then Dele Alli didn't really have much time to do anything. He tried to get involved, but can't really comment on much of what he's done. So let's talk about the stats, which should be appearing on your screen sometime now. Possession-wise, they absolutely bossed it in the first half. Like, there's no two ways about it. They pressed us so high, so hard. They were up for it from the off, pushing us into mistakes. We just couldn't get a grasp on the game, couldn't pick out passes. They had the ball, they were using it wide, albeit they lacked quality, which is, for me, this is the biggest problem. I know they had some players missing, obviously. Rafinha, massive miss because that guy is a great talent. Bamford not being there to get on the end of things and having to use the young guy up there, who I thought held his own fairly well. He did quite good, managed to get some pop shots off and things like that. But all in all, their final ball just let them down. If Leeds had have had the quality on the pitch with a final ball and then Bamford on the end of it, I don't know if we'd be coming away with this victory. Certainly if we were playing a better team today, i.e. a Liverpool, I would have expected that we'd have been hit quite hardly in that game. So I think we were lucky with the opposition we had in terms of that. Look, Leeds are only, a couple of players off being a real quality side. Like, their intensity is ridiculous. But, we were sitting in the pub watching the game and we actually had a Leeds fan with us who I might be, not confirmed yet, but might be interviewing him tomorrow because we're actually on holiday at the moment in Northumberland. So we went to the pub together. Might be talking to him tomorrow because he's got some interesting points on Leeds. But however, I just think they play so quickly. It is really hard to switch off when you've got the ball. They're doing so much full pressing. They've got the ball and they attack at 100 mile an hour. And it makes it so difficult with that final ball. You're just running too hard. You force the balls through. Don't take the time to look up and slow it down. And that's what they need to do at times. Just slow it down a bit when you're in possession. Defend at 100 mile an hour, but when you click into gear, take a couple of seconds to look up. And then on the flip side of that, when we had the ball, way too slow to make decisions. So many times we'd get the ball, we'd start ambling with it, we'd go to break, there'd be a player on in space, we'd think about it too long and then have to go the other way and lose the ball. There was an example, I can't remember if it was first or second half, but I think Royale was on the right-hand side. There was this massive gap in between the defence and midfield diagonally for him to be played in. And in the end, we changed our minds and ended up trying to go down the left and we lost the ball almost immediately. I remember screaming at the screen, like, you had so much time to play that ball, and it just didn't happen. But yeah, I think playing Leeds today was probably a blessing in disguise because there were certain elements of quality that they lacked across the pitch that let us in. I mean, we've got to remember one of our goals was from a deflected free kick and it was just down to the quick reactions of Reguilon. And that's poor on Leeds' part as well, because the one thing that and this was what Robbie Keane was great for, you gamble. You should always expect that no one's going to be there. The defender's going to miss it. The keeper's going to mess up. But on the flip side of that, as a defender, the second that ball is kicked as a free kick, you get your butt back and react. There was no reaction from them whatsoever. And for our first goal as well, Højbjerg was just left in too much space in the middle of their box. I mean, defensively, that has been part of their problem this season. But as I say, they're missing their best players. But, you give them a little bit of money and a bit more quality in there, and they are a different animal. But yeah, so as well as possession stats, which improved for us as the game went on. We won more duels, and once again, we were good in the air. We pretty much beat most teams in the air on aerial duels. So Conte, I'm just going to pick out a few little bits that he had to say. He mentioned that the fans weren't happy at all with the football in the first half, and he said he completely agreed with them. Second half, he said we changed it totally, tactically, and we played with personality. He mentioned that there was lots of space for improvement, which I think is evident. He said, and this is what I like about him, okay? So Nuno would not talk about players individually whatsoever, no matter how much the media tried to get him to do it. Conte, completely different. Happy to mention. He said Winks struggled in the first half, but brought personality in the second half. Sessegnon, it was important for him to come on, and when it comes to passion, you either have it or you don't. This is a point from which to start for the rest of the season. And look, he said a lot more than that, but I felt that those were the important bits to pick out. The fact that he's talking about passion, saying you either have it or you don't, great. We know he's got loads of passion. We can see that from the sidelines. We can see that when he celebrates the goal and the way he celebrated the victory. Look, at the end of the day, was it a great win? No, it wasn't. But was it an important win? Yes, it was. And every win needs to be seen as important with that much passion. You know, there are no easy games in the Premier League. That's just the way the league is. Everything has to be treated with the same intensity no matter what. This is the guy to do it. And I think over time, it will change the mentality of the players at the club. If not, they'll be out the door. And massively, the thing, when we go back to stats again, which the next bit should be popping up on the screen about now, we outran Leeds. Now, Leeds pretty much outrun every single team they play against. The reason we outrun them in the first half, which isn't by a lot, is because we were having to do all the work without the ball. We were chasing them. Second half, we worked with and without the ball. So, you know, it's good. It's starting to go in the right direction. But however, in my opinion, hard work should be a minimum, especially when you're paid a couple of $100,000 a week. You're paid to be fit. You're paid to run. Just do it. It's hard work. I mean, I'd be happy with $1,000 a week. I'd be running around like a headless chicken. So that's it for my points on the game. Put your comments below about what you think of the game, what you liked, what you didn't like, who you'd like to see instead. Do you think Skip will walk back into the side for the next game? So talking about next game, next up we play on Thursday in the Europa Conference League against Enes Moura. That's an away game. We should find that more comfortable than some of the others. They are the easiest team to play in our group. And then we follow that up with the game at the weekend on Sunday at Turf Moor against Burnley in the Premier League, and that is a 2 p.m. kickoff. So they're the games to look forward to. Hopefully there'll be a bit of rotation in the squad, keep the legs fresh. Burnley will be a tough game away. They're tough for anyone, home or away at the end of the day. Always a well-drilled team. Hopefully we can get over the line with that one. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. Take care, and until tomorrow with some more news, come on you Spurs.